Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the NIST TCAP Company Orientation webinar. We're very excited to formally kick off the program for 2020 today. A quick overview of the webinar format. All attendees are going to be muted throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, please submit them through the questions text box on the GoToWebinar dashboard, or use your hand raise function to ask questions live if you're using a microphone. The webinar is going to be recorded, and the recording and slides will be available on the Larta portal and will be shared with you. And lastly, please share your feedback with us by taking the brief survey following the webinar. Today on the line with me, I'm very pleased to have Roy Chukla, the founder and CEO of Larta, Bandana Katosh, the Director of Sustainability Practice at Larta, and myself, the NIST TCAP Program Manager. The agenda for today, we're going to look at the program overview.
The slides don't seem to be moving at all. I'm not sure if that's an issue or what. I'm still seeing only the title slide. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is anyone else having trouble seeing the slides moving? Please type in the message box.
That is a concern, Ayelet. I can't see slides moving either.
Okay.
There we go. That's the agenda slide.
Okay. Okay. We're sorry about that. Sorry about the technical issue here. So the agenda for today will go over the program overview and the components, the mutual expectations, the personalized mentoring, which is the heart of the program, the commercialization plan, the CP. We'll go over the Larta modules and the resources that you have available and the commercialization plan itself. We will also look at the portal and how you can use the portal. And then lastly, we'll go over next steps and the Q&A. So let's start with the program overview. So a quick look at the timeline. As you know, during December and January, we started the intake and most of you attended the information session. And now we're here formally kicking off the program. In the week following the webinar, we will be introducing you to your principal advisors, the PA, which will mentor you throughout the program. NIST has notified us that the NOFA will be released tentatively in March, with the deadline to the Phase 2 proposal sometime in April. For those of you who will choose not to submit to Phase 2, you have the opportunity to continue working on your commercialization plan with your advisor until October. And with that, I'll let Rohit introduce the program.
Thank you, Ayelet, and thank you all. Thank you, Ayelet, and thank you all for joining. This representation, this graphic here, is simply to suggest that the program has a circularity built into it. At the heart of it, of course, is the grantee, which is you. And you can see, as Ayelet said, that the principle, the core of the program is devoted to personalized, customized mentoring. We do not take for granted the fact that you are, in fact, from extremely diverse backgrounds with diverse needs in terms of your understanding of the commercialization landscape, what's going on in the market, etc. We understand that. We therefore seek to personalize and customize the experience of dealing with the issues that you will represent in your commercialization plan. And so, as Ayelet said, you're focused then on the CP, the commercialization plan, and the commercialization plan modules, and going through the modules in order to guide your own understanding of the various aspects of the plan that NIST requires. But along the way, you're also going to be able to get a fair amount of reasonable feedback from your principal advisor and potentially from other industry folks that you've been talking to or will be talking to during the program, and some very specialized expertise in specific areas where you might need an additional amount of help. In turn, that specialized expertise will be supplemented by even more specialized and sometimes very specific and directed expertise in the form of our interactive webinars. We have a whole family and a library of webinars, and during any particular cycle, we offer several webinars that seek to identify issues or seek to supplement the information you already have that will help you effectively put together a holistic plan for the purpose of phase 2, but more importantly, give you the awareness you need to go beyond the SBIR program, beyond the phase 1 and phase 2 itself. So again, you're going to be paired with the principal advisor. We'll talk about the PAs in a minute in terms of their background. You will develop a strong commercialization plan. You'd be able to access our network in the form of not just the principal advisor, but other folks as well. And then you're going to be able to supplement what you've learned and what you've put into place for your commercialization plan with information and knowledge based on our webinars that we offer throughout the entire process of the program. And just those things that are coming up there will simply amplify that. In terms of success at a glance, these are grantees, NIST grantees, who've achieved a certain level of success. In this case, we decided to put in funding as well because that was a key issue for their ongoing development or progression to the next stage of their development. And you can see a reasonably successful group of companies here. By the way, even though this might seem to be unusual in terms of the money raised, a lot of that money also in the form of grants and contracts, and some of it, as you can see with Cold Quanta in Boulder, a great deal of funding that came in several successive rounds along the seed area. But it doesn't mean that is the only indication of success. It's an important one because you're going to need money anyway. But every one of these companies has been able to focus what they've done in their commercialization plan with specific needs and wants and problems and pain that was felt by somebody or some group or some buyer, if you will, who was willing to effectively put their money into this because they were convinced that this particular plan would help. Isla, you want to just do a quick overview of the grantees by industry sector region?
Yeah, so just to introduce you to your peer awardees in the program, you can see that you're nicely split between the life sciences, information technology, and material sciences mainly, and then also a nice geographical distribution across the U.S. For mutual expectations and how to work with your PA, there are three main program expectations that we'll discuss thoroughly. The first one being that the program participation does not provide you a guarantee of a win. So as you know, there are many factors that are involved in the selection of the Phase 2 winners, starting with your competitors, whatever SBIR budget is available, and the stage and how you achieve the milestones of your technology development during Phase 1. However, we are here to help you enhance your profile and help you put your best foot forward and address both your weaknesses and your gaps, but also to really uncover and discover your potential opportunities. And remember that you must convince the reviewers that your innovation and approach has a high impact, and this is what the PA is here to help you with. The second expectation we want to talk about is that we expect you to write your own plan, and we will definitely guide you in preparing it, but it is of utmost importance that it will come from you, because you and only you can tell your story the best way possible, show why you care, and also how and why you and your team are positioned for success. This program will provide you with the tools, and your PA will be your sounding board and a guide. And we are all working together to help you arrive at a really credible and compelling CP that will tell your story, but in your voice.
Well, if you just would stay on that for a second, Ayelet,
Sure.
go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to amplify what Ayelet is saying. One of the key distinctions in this program is that we're not essentially giving you templates that are already pre-filled. And the reason is we have found over 25 years of working with science-based companies that the best way they find to serve their own purposes is to enable them to essentially express what they have through guidance and feedback and expertise that we can provide, but that only they can represent and defend. So, for example, even while you're in the process of writing your plan, if you have an understanding of the first section, which is market and market landscape and so on, we'll go into those in a minute. If somebody were to stop you somewhere along the way, and this happens frequently, as you know, this is America, serendipity is the name of the game. You go up and somebody comes up to you and they ask you about your market, you should be able to both project, defend, and explain what your market is. And that's what we need. If we would just sit here and give you a pre-filled essay, that would be much harder for you to do. So without oversimplifying the process, I just wanted to amplify what Ayelet was saying, that, you know, the best way we can serve you is two things. Number one, give you tools that have been tested over the course of many years that will enable you to become expert at being able to tell your own story, and give you a sounding board based on experience and background and knowledge and expertise of people who've done this and been there before. So it's not at all intended to be condescending in any way, shape, or form. It's a collaborative enterprise, as Ayelet was referring to. Thank you, Ayelet.
Thank you, Rohit. And lastly, we want to discuss the fact that the NIST TCAP is not your usual business development program. And so with that said, our intention is that we will introduce you to our network, your principal advisors and counsel and advise you. But how you use these connections is really up to you. And you have, of course, the highest vested interest in your success, and we will really help you get there, but there is no guarantee that we will get you a contact. It all depends on your progress in your work with your PA and whether or not your company is ready to take that next step, but we will definitely help you get there. A little bit about the cost, level of effort, and confidentiality issues that we know everybody is concerned about. So as you know, this is a free program for you, sponsored by NIST, and you are receiving expert mentoring and access to industry network at no charge, and please make the best use that you can of it. We do strongly encourage CEO or at least your lead business person in the company to participate in the program. And this is because it's highly important that your strategy, your commercialization strategy moving forward is set forth by that very significant person in the company. All of your monthly meetings and call will be virtual, so you can establish a schedule that will work around your schedule and your advisors. And lastly, it's really important to emphasize that the deliverables, so-called deliverables in this program, are not equal to homework. What we want you to do is treat them as guidelines and as stepping stones to creating that very important strategy for your company. In terms of confidentiality, all of your discussions with your one-on-one assistance with your PA and with any Larta staff is treated as confidential. You all know, as you've already filled out your intake forms, that the first step was signing an NDA that we are bound by, of course. The one exception being if we introduce you to contacts outside of the Larta network, you will have to establish your confidentiality agreement with them. And please, within that blanket confidentiality agreement, you're more than encouraged to share supplemental documents on the portal with your PA in advance of your scheduled calls so that they can make the best use of the time with you. For principal advisors, which I've already alluded to, they are really the heart of the program. You will be assigned with a principal advisor following this webinar based on your gaps and your needs that we can identify from the intake form that you filled out. And these, you can see here some of the past and present and probably future NIST principal advisors. They have really real-world experience and connections and really deep expertise in commercializations and have done this hundreds of times before and will be here to assist you. Working with your PA, so as I mentioned, the PA is assigned based on your specific needs. But if you recognize a conflict of interest or any other issue with your PA, please notify Larta immediately. We recommend to build the 12 hours that you have allocated for you with your PA in the following way. Again, this is a suggestion. If you feel like you need less or more time in one area, by all means, go ahead and do this. But we would recommend to start with a 1 hour introduction and assessment, which we will discuss later further, and then 9 to 10 hours on mentoring and going through the CP modules and preparing your CP and discussing your commercialization strategy, with 1 to 2 hours for a final review of your CP. How to get the most from your PA. Recognize what he is and what he isn't. What he is a very experienced commercialization professional. As I said, they've done it so many times before, either in their own companies or assisting hundreds of early stage companies like yourself and awardees of SBIR grants specifically. They are genuinely interested in helping you move forward, so you should definitely make use of that. And they are an expert in a certain technology or a business area. And like we said, it really depends on what we recognize as your needs. What he's not free. So NIST pays for this service, so take advantage of it. And really don't waste your time by just scheduling and avoiding or going around the issues. He's not an expert in your specific technology or market niche, and he shouldn't be. He's really focused on your commercialization strategy. And he's also not only focused on your company, of course, he's working with a lot of other companies, and therefore please be very respectful of their time.
So,
and with that,
I wanted to,
yes,
just on the previous slide, I wanted to add a point there. I mean, through these are more like guidelines, but we really want you to see your principal advisor as a sounding board, as almost a confidant in this journey who can actually help you provide guidance in terms of what the next directions should be. They might not bring like the technical expertise in that particular area where your technology is, but they definitely bring tremendous amount of knowledge and experience, both from industry, which is directly relevant to you, and beyond. So I think this would be a great opportunity for you to engage with them, not just in terms of deliverable, but also in terms of having that sounding board who has vested interest in your success, in your commercialization success.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vandana.
Yeah, one thing if I can add as well, by the way, I know you all, or many of you attended the information session that we had a little while ago. What we may not have done adequately is introduce the individuals involved in managing and overseeing this program. So the person speaking, as you know, is Ayelet, and you should regard Ayelet as a peer because she has also been part of and founded a company, which she has taken through many stages before, eventualities come in the way and so on and so forth. So she understands this journey very, very well, and she oversees this program, which means she's also incredibly involved with how the PAs are doing with you and what kinds of work you're ending up doing for yourself and within the program. Vandana, who is our Director of Sustainability Programs, has a long history and engagement with companies, including assessing them, identifying the opportunities that they have in the marketplace, making introductions, evaluating their real core, both their IP and beyond. And she's been doing this for over 17, 18, 19 years, including inside universities in very deep science states and beyond. So I want you to know that you have a really strong band of professionals who've essentially developed a practice area that is, I think, in many ways unequaled. So you should know that you're in good hands. I didn't want to just indulge in empty marketing, but I wanted you to recognize that this program is extremely serious and very, very, and works towards successful outcomes. So thank you on that, folks.
Thank you, Rui. Thank you for these very kind words. And with that, I'll let you introduce the commercialization plan.
Right. So just a word on the commercialization plan before we go on. I know it seems like this is a chore. It may seem like a pro forma exercise you have to go through in order to be able to get to the next stage of funding. The key issue to recognize here is, like in anything else, if you were doing a business plan for funding or a set of slides for funding, because increasingly people are now dependent on presentations as opposed to long 20, 30-page business plans, you should recognize that there is an opportunity here for you to put down on paper the kind of collection of thoughts and the understanding of what the opportunity is, the ability to identify specific individuals and groups who are affected by, positively affected by your innovation, and convince reviewers, whom we'll talk about in a second, these are commercial reviewers, who are selected by NIST who are invited by NIST to serve on panels which evaluate each and every single submission on the phase 2. So remember that the CP itself, in that sense, is a human document, as the slide shows. It is your opportunity to show and share your voice. It is aimed at those commercial reviewers, but it is not meant to be a rote exam of any kind. While it does, in fact, refer to other parts of your package that you're submitting to NIST, including your technical plan, which they will read, by the way. I will assure you that they will read that. But even if you have to repeat certain sections or certain areas in the technical plan in your commercialization plan, do so, because that commercialization plan needs to stand on its own. And you should not assume that they can just easily go back and forth between those two without specific direction from you. And instead of having them do that, put it in the commercialization plan itself. I know the number of pages is very short, all things considered, because when you're talking about a science-based enterprise, you're typically wanting to explicate things in great detail. Well, we're here to guide you in being brief about the way you represent the stuff. This is not about, by the way, the most clever engineering innovation that you've come up with or that is out there, or comparing it to what is out there in terms of cleverness. It is really in terms of being able to meet a need or needs in a very clear way. It could be the simplest possible innovation. But if you can suggest that this has the means of being able to conquer a specific need or meet a specific need, and you have people on your side who are able to testify to it, that is absolutely what I think will work in a successful submission of a commercialization plan. Next slide, please. The critical issue in thinking about your commercialization plan is to understand that this is a story. You're leading people through a story. And like any narrative, which is in fact the basis of human interest in anything, when you're looking at a narrative, you need to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. In your case, the beginning is, in fact, what is the problem you're trying to resolve? Not how well I can develop XYZ, but am I developing XYZ to meet a specific need? How will, in fact, you be able to do this so that people can pay in order to help address this pain? Which brings you to specifically identifying the so-called value proposition. You're going to hear a lot about that term. It's sometimes misused and sometimes overused, but the real meaning behind it is the establishment of widespread value, or what you might consider high value, highest value, for a particular set of individuals who are capable of and wanting to spend on being able to acquire this particular solution that is out there to address that pain. And as a consequence, will help this enterprise further itself in a marketplace that is marked by competitive pressures and so on. Which means you have to know that marketplace, both in terms of numbers and in terms of how it has been evolving over time, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of users, in terms of the description of users, etc. And also, obviously, how you reach it. In order to do that, many of you will not have a full team of people and will not necessarily have the money. But what you do have, and you should be able to project this, regardless of whether you have a team or the money, is two things. Number one, you have a clear and concise conception of what it will be to address this particular market that has this identified pain that can be objectively evaluated. That's the first thing. And the second thing is every one of you has a background. This is the land of Edison. You all are, in one sense or another, tinkerers and inventors. You're looking for the next thing that you can actually push forward to improve the human experience. This is not some, this is not some prayer. This is not some huge aspiration. This is the reality of your lives. And if you are able to suggest that this story you're telling carries with it the burden of you as a principal instigator, and that you understand that you will need a team and what those gaps are in your own formation, in your own enterprise, and that you're able to then understand what kinds of resources you will need, even if you don't have them. Just the recognition of that alone demonstrates that you have what it takes to build an enterprise, even if you ultimately are not the CEO. The other thing that focuses on this knowing the market and the so-called problem and how people will pay to address it is that you have to have a plan. A product plan, meaning the technical issues associated with the product, but also the way that you would address the form fit factor of that product. The marketing plan, how it is that you will essentially reach those particular targets that you have already identified in the market section of your plan. you don't have the resources, or you will certainly need, even if you do, you will certainly need additional resources. What is your plan to do so? Even if it's not fully fleshed out, it's fine to be able to have the sketches of a funding plan that then work towards an overall plan in terms of people. Because if you're going to be raising money, you will need people to help you do that. So that's part of your team. So all of this fits together. And then, of course, you've got to show your timeline as well. Now, with all of that said, there is still going to be, and there should be, skepticism in terms of who's out there, what are they doing, how is it currently being addressed, who are these other players that have been able to obviously address the pain in however incomplete a fashion they've done it. Now, it's very tempting for you to be able to say, you know what, nobody does what I do. That's a cop-out. That's not sufficient. You got to be able to say, this is how we do it that's better than how it's currently done because of these factors. And obviously, if you have testimonials on that score, that's even better. And I know that every one of you has the ability to be able to get those kinds of testimonials. So you've got to enumerate what your competitive advantages are. You've got to enumerate what the barriers are that you can set up to any competition coming beyond or behind you, in addition to addressing what is currently there as competitors. And in that regard, one of the key issues that you will drive towards is the understanding of the specifics of your IP, which is why it's part of the section in the CP. Finally, the end of the story, so to speak. This is a story, right? So at the end of the story is where are you going next? Beyond all of the stuff that you put in place in terms of the funding plan, in terms of a product plan and a marketing plan, and a team plan, and an understanding of how you would navigate the market to reach the kind of users you want. What is the end goal here? And it's perfectly fine if you say, our plan is ultimately to sell this to XYZ kind of company because they will need this to supplement their own. That's perfectly fine. It's also perfectly fine to say, we want to continue building this company and building revenue in this company because we feel that this particular niche is going to be well addressed by us. That's perfectly fine as well. But whatever the objective is, it should be there in your CP. And why is this important? It's not just because you have to confirm all of this and convince a group of commercial reviewers, but it's also this becomes a template for your work beyond the phase 2, beyond the phase 1 and your addressing of phase 2. This is the template for the work that you can do with our help moving forward. We're looking forward to working with you, many of you, in phase 2. Now, in putting this together as a story, here are the hard things that you will have to be able to do, and this is typical. Obviously, we already referred to a convincing value proposition. This is where your principal advisor will really help you hone in on the specific value that you bring to the table. In obviously being able to quantify this marketplace that you are going to be addressing, and we've got tools for that as well. In terms of showing the fact that you can get some supporters to be in your corner, as I said, third-party validation, so to speak. And finally, a convincing funding plan, because you can't just be speculative about where this money is coming from and how much money you need. It has to be focused on the plan, okay? You have to be able to narrate your CP funding plan in a way that suggests that this funding plan is appropriate to the level of things that we need to do. So otherwise, you can just put your finger out the window and just say, I want 10 million. And that's the kind of thing that I think we're trying to make sure that you understand and address specifically. In terms of using the CP itself, it's not just about getting to phase 2, and I think I've alluded to this a couple of times. You want to be able to use the CP as a launch point for your potential business partners or customers, investors. You want to be able to use the CP in order to have a convincing argument to bring in new employees, and to build out your management team. And that's why this program is a holistic, and if I may say so, an extremely cost-effective way of being able to address these kinds of issues, namely that it's free to you. So take advantage of it. And with that, Bandana and ILS, if you would go through the specific outline that NIST has in mind, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to speak to you folks, and thank you for your time and attention. I hope you don't see this as being in any way, shape, or form condescending. We're extremely proud and extremely honored to be working with you as science-based entrepreneurs. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rohit. So for the commercialization plan, one of the most important things is that really you need to follow a specific outline so that the reviewers read this according to the outline that they've asked for. And so NIST provides you with a very specific outline, and you can use the link in this presentation later to follow the outline. And our CP modules or commercialization plan modules, which are on our portal, and we'll discuss them shortly, will provide you with a deeper drill down into the different sections. And these are the main, really, 5 sections: company and team, the SBIR project and the market opportunity presented, the competition and intellectual property, your path to commercialization and your financial plan, and lastly, assistance and mentoring. There is a bonus section, an executive summary, which you do not have to include, but we strongly recommend that you go through the exercise of preparing it and also including it to supplement your profile for the reviewer. So let's discuss the different parts. So first, you have to present your company and your team. So with a brief company description, the nature of your business, what is the field of interest that you're in, and include, of course, your core competency and what is it that you do. Then you have to present your team, what is the size of the company, your number of employees, and if you have any sales revenue or any kind of products that already has significant sales. In terms of the project and market opportunity, here what you want to convey is a very clear description of the product or service or both that you plan on providing as a result of your phase 2, the funds and research, and what is the potential commercial application, or how are people going to use it? How are your customers going to use it? Who are going to be your customers? And that's, as Rohit has already discussed before, this is a very difficult part. Who are identifying really who will be your customers? What are the markets that you have already identified, and are there others that you haven't identified yet? What is the estimated size of that market, the growth potential, and the monetary value of that market? So qualitative and quantitative really overview of the market. The competition and intellectual property. So in that section, you need to identify who are your major competitors in the market, whether if they're present now or is it anticipated that you would have these competitors. What is the significant advantage of your technology specifically, and how it will differ from the other competitors? What is innovative about your anticipated technology or product? So again, really the differentiation between you and other technologies that compare. How do you intend to compete with competitors, assuming that you know who your competitors are? What is your plan for that? Any past IP success that you already have, if you have any patents, copyrights, trademarks that are registered, and what are the steps that you have taken to protect your IP or mitigate infringement risks? The next part of the CP, the path to commercialization and your financial plan, here you need to discuss your projected expenses and revenues, and the plan of funding as you move towards phase 3 or the real world and beyond your phase 2. What is the nature and status of any strategic relationship that are crucial to your strategy? And by that, we mean if you've already identified any partners or potential customers or manufacturers you're working with, these all need to be included in these plans, in this plan. And finally, NIST requests that you specifically identify assistance and mentoring, and what are your plans for securing this technical or business assistance through the mentoring and assistance programs that are offered to you. One example is what you're doing here. So make sure that you write it in your phase 2 plan so that Larta, which is a long-time partner to NIST, is well aware of the assistance that you're getting. And moving forward, for your information and knowing what are the things that Larta can really help you with, we can help you with many aspects based on your needs and gaps of your commercialization. But largely, we can really put it into 8 different buckets in the different areas of assistance that we can offer you throughout the program, both in mentoring services such as your PA hours, in ideation, in product development, in market insights and customer insights, understanding your market and your customers, capital and fundraising, branding and marketing, and other specialty services such as IP, regulatory, reimbursement strategy, and so on and so forth. And of course, we are here. If you'd like to ask questions about each one of these categories, please reach out to us, and we are happy to explain what it is that we can help you with. Some tips for how to conduct your time during the program. So really involve your PA, be in proactive communication with him, initiate it, involve him in things that are not necessarily just your CP, but rather your strategy as a whole. Recognize what are your strengths, and put them in the right perspective when you're describing it in your CP. But also, and similarly important, acknowledge your weaknesses and what is it that you plan to do to handle them. Prioritizing and focusing, you need to start writing the CP as early as possible. Identify what are the most difficult parts for you and give yourself enough time to write it very well. Allocate significant time to financials, and we can tell you from experience that over 70% of program participants across the different SBIR awards and agencies find financials to be one of the hardest parts. So plan ahead. Be careful about just delegating it out to someone else. This is your core business. Your company is yours, and your core business is better described by people that really do it every day. And then finally, proofread, and then proofread. There's nothing more annoying to a reviewer than just mistakes that shouldn't be there. I want to move forward by telling you a little bit about how this program is going to help you write the CP. We are using something called CP Modules on our portal. They cover the NIST designated areas that are critical to the CP using this outline as we discussed. They give you a good structure for early discussion with your PAs, and so these different CP modules and their content that we're going to look at very shortly, you can use them to focus your meetings with the PA around these topics, and you can use them to uncover potential weaknesses of your CP and your entire phase 2 proposal. However, it is not a template. We provide a very rough outline, but you need to tailor it to fit your company and your specific issues. It may not cover everything that you should address, but you know best what are the things that you need to address. So use it as sort of a guideline to help you get started and to help you address issues that you might not have considered. They are iterative, they are online, and all the versions, including the advisor comments that they will provide you on what you write in your section, are saved for your reference. Go through them as early as you can. Identify anything which you don't think you have an answer to or a strong answer to. And if you don't have an answer at all, don't just procrastinate and just skip it. Figure it out and see how you're going to address it in your CP. So how does it look? You should all be familiar by now with the portal interface. This is where you filled out your application form in the beginning of the program. So when you log in, you should be able to see, starting later today, you should be able to see this icon for CP modules. And when you click it, you'll be able to see these different sections and those guideline questions that you can start answering. There will also be a space for advisor comments on each one of these questions. And that way you can really start the discussions and start working on each one of the sections. Here you can see on the left side that with each section, we provide some relevant resources, such as the relevant webinars that Rohit mentioned, or other resources that might be helpful to you. And again, if you feel like you're missing something and you need some help, please reach out to us. We've already mentioned it before, but just to reiterate, we have a webinar series. It's interactive webinars online. We just had a really great one yesterday about business strategy. And as our portfolio company, starting today, you have access to the entire library of our webinar series. They are provided by experts in the industry and are covering really different commercialization topics, starting with market research, IP, financial modeling, marketing and branding, and other topics. So please make use of it. And if you don't know how to reach it or how to find it in the portal, please reach out to me and I'll guide you towards it. Another resource you can use is Crunchbase. We highly recommend that you create a company profile to increase your visibility to potential partners, to investors, and also it really is a best practice for search engine optimization. You will need to gather a few things to create your account in Crunchbase, and this also gives us the ability to really monitor things that are going on with all of the companies better. And we strongly recommend that. There is a webinar showing you why you should be doing this. And if you need help doing this, once again, please reach out to us. The portal, the Larta portal, so as you already know, this is going to be the main interface for communicating in terms of your CP modules and your documents that you're sharing with the PA. You should use it to update your profile or contact information if there's any change. As we said, working on your CP modules, the document sharing down here to the left, you can use it to share whatever supplemental documents you would like to share with your PA or with Larta. You can use it to view all the webinars that occur throughout the program, and you'll be also invited by email to all of these. And explore the various resources. If you can see here under program info and resources, there are various resources that we offer, and please make use of it. Next steps. During the coming week or so, we will be assigning you with a principal advisor. After you've been assigned with a principal advisor, and you will get all these instructions in the first email, where he will also be addressed, please go to the portal, and I'll go back to the portal slide, you can see here the CAP planning and assessment icon. This is where you can, in advance and prior to your first call with your PA, complete the assessment form. This is a deeper dive into your company and where you're at right now, and it provides your PA with a good overview of your current status, both of the technology, and your company. And it also helps you kind of start the process of thinking about commercialization. As part of it, you will have the opportunity to fill out your idea of a SWOT analysis as part of the assessment form. So going into your first call with the PA, which you should arrange with your PA directly after you are assigned, please discuss and assess the company, the most pressing gaps that you have, clarify what are the things you don't know, and start working on a work plan. Really discuss your commercialization materials, whatever you've shared with your PAs, and activities outside of the CP writing, if this is something you would like to do. And we do encourage you to do that. Some important dates. So as I said, PA introductions should be no later than February 28th, but we will do our best to already assign you with a PA in the coming week. The NIST Phase 2 proposal deadline is sometimes in April 2020. Stay tuned for the NOFO and the announcement of the date. And of course, stay tuned for invitations for our upcoming webinars. With that, I think I will. Yes, Vandana, go ahead.
Yeah, what I wanted to kind of re-emphasize on the fact of importance of assistance and mentoring, which is mentioned in the outline, which Ayelet was mentioning, that has not an important role. And even though we discussed a little bit about the services we provide for as a commercialization services for startup companies, not just the SBIR companies like yourself, but our programs beyond United States as well. And what that does is it does allow you to access the network we have built for the entrepreneurial ecosystem in different regions throughout the country and, for that matter, globe. So we truly hope that you can see us as a partner to join you in your commercialization success. And we'll be happy to, as you're coming close to submit your Phase 2 application, we'll be happy to dive into each of those services to kind of say how we can help you in your Phase 2.
Thank you. Thank you, Vandana. If anyone has any questions, please either submit them through the questions text box on your dashboard or use the hand raise function. I will take a few minutes to monitor the questions panel to see if anyone has any questions. But of course, also remember that if you come up with questions later on, when you've looked at the portal, when you started thinking about things and you come up with new questions, we are always here to answer them. So please reach out to us and don't hesitate to do so. And I will also take the opportunity to thank Rohit and Vandana and each and every one of you for attending the webinar today. We're very happy to start the program, and we're very excited to working with each and every one of your companies. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I don't see any questions coming up right now.
But of course, you know, Ayelet and Vandana, you've already said this, but if anybody has any specific questions relating to anything that we've discussed here or your general commercialization planning process, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always available to science-based companies across the board. So thank you for your time as well. Appreciate it.
Okay, I don't see any specific questions pertinent to the program as of right now. And so I will give you 5 minutes back from your hour today. If you have any questions coming up after the webinar, please reach out to us and let us know. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Appreciate it.